So, first of all, I'd just like to say welcome back. And if you're here listening and viewing this again, thanks very much for, tuning back into us. For the audio version, just like to apologize if there is some slight pauses. It's not hopefully a break in the order. It's just now and again, I do have those moments which probably are easier to see on the video YouTube version. So thanks again, and we would just like to continue where we left off last time.
So, when you were told that your vision in the left eye was never going to improve, and combined with your deterioration of your mental health, was it at that point that you realised that you needed to make a change?
Yes, but it's not as clear cut as that. And, no pun intended, there is a real bad blur. I probably knew deep down that I needed to make a change, but it was knowing what that change looked like and what it actually had to be. And I think at the time there, I still didn't understand a lot that was going on. And I think the biggest part for me was I didn't understand the effects of anxiety and what that would bring. And at that time, what we know now is a lot different. At that time, the anxiety was bringing I can only say it's just mimics the heart attacks in symptoms and everything. The pain in my chest, the pain going down my left arm, feeling like, I was really having a heart attack, and even that resulted in two trips to A&E. Now, it kind of is that because what we know now and have learned more through the process again, and it's only because of really good doctors, thankfully, at the A&E, is, through me going through those severe anxiety moments, it was, the effects of, cortisone and the other enzymes going into the blood that cause those symptoms. So to me, to get back to the question of what that looked like with the change was at that time, as you well know, I just didn't think I was going to make the end of the year.
Mm.
I was positive, we'd already had two big heart moments, should we call them, and I thought, I'm not going to make it. So to me, making the change was we had to move away, be more around an area where you knew, and let's be honest, affordability afforded us that option that if you were paying for a mortgage by yourself,
Yeah.
that you could get by and everything. So to me, making that change was okay, let's do that, let's move away.
Yeah. So initially, obviously, we were living still in and around the military environment when all this was happening, and it took it felt like it took quite some time for you to kind of accept that what had happened to you had happened, because I know initially there were times where you told me that you kept dreaming of, like, that you wished there was a time machine, that there was, if there was only a way you could go back, if you could have done something differently. um and I remember having those conversations with you, and in those early stages. So it was almost like you had to get to a point to accept that what had happened, and you weren't going to be able to go back. Yeah.
Yeah,
You had to accept where you were
yeah,
at that time. But ultimately, for you, you were convinced that you weren't going to make it past Christmas. And
yeah,
it was like we were kind of in a military quarter, so we didn't have a house or anything to move into. We were kind of stuck in that kind of environment. I think for you, you felt as though if you could move me and Arthur back near family and get us settled, that would give you some comfort. And I think for me, I just felt as though if you were away from that military environment, that you could just get yourself kind of straight, and think clearly about, you know, or kind of recover from everything that you've been through, just have that time away, without any pressure. think
Yeah,
that was something that was really important to me.
it was, and going through that then process of what we started in, and I mean no disrespect through the military system saying that, is there was nothing else there. We've been to see a doctor and everything, and it was just like, right, okay, sent home on sick on leave and everything, and put on a waiting list for treatment. So it was just like, okay, what else happened through that? We started to do some research, but then it was like, right, we need to make that change, is how I felt. But what I'm trying to link that into then is when we decided that we were going to move away, it was like I had to put, you know, the big boy pants back on and everything. And it was just like, right, we're going to buy a house. We never bought a house before. We need to get a mortgage and all of that. And we call it again, it's easier in hindsight now, but it was all of that, which was life treatment, getting back into life and doing those big things again.
Yeah,
As you well know, I could not even go into Costa without having to sit next to a window or going back out again, because of struggling. And this gave me that first bit of the treatment. So by then, when we did make that change, and I am skipping through quite a bit, and we got up there and we got the house and everything, it was just like, right, what do we need to do? Well, it was just like, we need to get the house sorted. So you got back into work, and I was just doing jobs around the house, building jobs that I really hadn't, done before, getting electrocuted way too many times, and I was getting paranoid that I was going to blow my eye out or something,
yeah,
the one good eye I had left. But all of that seemed to then be treatment. Now, for some reason, like we, just talked about, I had it in my mind that at that point there, that, Christmas, you know, leading up to it, I just wasn't going to make that Christmas. And then all of a sudden, Christmas came and it was just like, "Oh, I'm still here.
yeah,
What is going to happen?" So, and all of a sudden it was just like, well, I'm still here. It's okay. But what we naturally started to see, through going through that and starting to, I know I was really starting to, focus on getting back to doing physical activity, and we were doing the house stuff and doing normal family stuff again, is, the Apple Watch was fantastic of just showing the truth of, you know, the heart rate starting to come back down.
yeah,
Yeah, massively. There was those daily blips and there was those moments of the anxiety creeping back in because it would be a simple life decision, going about B&Q and trying to buy a paint or something and not knowing what to choose. And those daily anxiety levels were getting still there, but those big ones through my job at that time were just taken away.
yeah. I think the whole move, when we made that decision to make a change and make the move away from kind of being around the army and to be closer to the family in the north, and then like literally going around looking at houses, um, you know, all of that change was actually like a really positive distraction. So it kind of helped you to kind of move through time, be distracted, so you were just kind of not constantly thinking about everything that had happened to you, and thinking about, is your eye going to get worse, you that anxiety feeling, that feeling stressed. um it was just like, like you say, it was therapy in itself,
Yeah.
but it was like a positive distraction. um and I think in that first instance, that really just helped us to just get through time, and just for you to kind of settle into kind of some kind of normal routine and really accept what had happened. Because that acceptance piece seemed to take quite a long time. It wasn't just like one day you were like, okay, this is me and my eye's never going to get better, and I'm gonna, look like I'm looking through a shower curtain constantly, and have those waves of feeling sick and all of that. It did take time, but you did get there. You still are working through that.
Yeah, and it was a massive, long, drawn out process, and we didn't know at that time. Same thing again, and what connections did I have back to the military then? Obviously I had my recovery officer who would come around every couple of weeks and would check in on me, and, fantastic person, and, huge positive process, through speaking to him. But there wasn't anything else. And, what we were then led to believe was going to be the treatment of anxiety management and, other thing courses. It didn't materialize. When I eventually did come off the waiting list, it's not what we hoped. And shortly afterwards, the person who was taking the therapy lost his contract
Mhm.
after a couple of sessions, and put back on the waiting list, and unfortunately never ever did come back off of that waiting list. But then leading into that, we were heading towards, then the date had been set for the medical board of August. And through, we're skipping through a lot of the months there and everything. But the only thing other than, it was great. I had my life up there in Burnley at that time that was giving me that distraction. But the only other people that I was chatting to at that time, same thing again, we speak regularly, with Matt Spruce, speak every couple of days to Dougie Douglas. Those guys checking in on me were huge, starting to get back into the Strava community and positive messages, especially chiming in from, Nigel,
Mm.
and, his positivity of just, those days when I was really struggling just gave me that bit of lift. And we were reconnecting with those people, those friends, true friends, that really gave me sort of that, there could be a bit of hope in this. And I just didn't know at that time still what was going on. So it was like doing more research, and I was fortunate enough to go on that mental first aid course, and that gave me a huge understanding of what actually goes on. And I started to really sort of, in a way, treat myself through the understanding of that course.
Yeah, for sure.
But, through all of that, it was that huge part of, I can only say, I've suffered so many years with that imposter syndrome. But then what, that anxiety, and I talk about everything that goes wrong, it's like, a big megaphone in your head talking about it, is catastrophizing. And catastrophizing was just a huge part of everything. And that could be going to the shops, and I was still trying to, every time we went in the Tesco's, the lights played havoc and everything like that. Then started to worry about things. We might go to buy something in that shop and it wasn't there. And it was just like, that was a
Mm.
huge ordeal. And
Mm.
it just didn't need to be. But everything at that life point, it just didn't say go well, but it was a small problem. It was just catastrophizing about that and feeling unwell.
I remember when we first moved and we had jobs around that we were doing in the house, and you would start to do some certain bits and pieces. And I remember when you were painting in the kitchen, and I just heard you like swear really loudly, and you were like so frustrated. And I was like, what's going on? And the paint was kind of, I don't know, it wasn't turning out how you thought it was. But to you, it was like such a massive ordeal.
Yeah,
You really did like catastrophize the whole thing. It was like, right, that's it, everything's going wrong.
yeah,
And it was like the worst case scenario. And there's been so many other times where you've kind of gone to that place where really actually when we talked about it later on, it was like, well, no, it's okay. We can deal with it in this way. It's not a problem. And you have got better at that, but even now, there are still times where
oh,
you find yourself in that place.
oh, massively. But let me turn around and say it is, yeah, I will always turn around and say, if somebody asks me today how I'm feeling, I'm going to say it's difficult, it's really clunky, it's really painful. But
Yeah.
when I look back at those times, I could, that darkness and that noise that we talk about so much is such an awful place and everything. And I'm not saying life's easy now, because I find life incredibly hard now, and it is a battle. But it's a battle that we're trying to face on, and, trying to fight through and everything. But that catastrophizing, it's still there, but it's just trying to keep a control of it, try and have that understanding about it. And a lot of it is, when we talk about making that change, is just that acceptance part of, okay, I'm just never going to get that sight back in that eye. It's never going to be that. We're hoping that, the more positive changes we make to the life, then some of the other stuff with the anxiety will just, hopefully, will I be able to deal with it better or something else. But it's, through doing what we're doing, and part of that, making that change was then, the date had been set for the medical board. Now, deep down to me, I knew what the decision was going to be on that day. And it was a huge, huge day and everything like that. But deep down, it was just like, I didn't want my military career to come to an end. Still thought there could be a bit of hope. I actually had been training more because of making sure my fitness was good, and even doing my online courses and making sure they were up to date. Because if there was a glimmer of a hope of them turning around and saying I could stay back in, then I had that opportunity. But equally, the flip side of me will say now is that would have completely have been the wrong decision, because that have just set me back. So
Yeah.
going down there on that day, and I have to be open and honest, and I always will be during these things. And but that day was such a brutal event.
Yeah.
I personally feel, and I guess it has to be a process and everything, and it has to be very clear cut and everything, but I just didn't feel the compassion, and equally I just felt like, equally the decision was already made before me walking in on that room.
Yeah. I was really glad that I could be there at the time to support you, but like we had the whole conversation while we were driving down, like what we're going to expect. Will there be, we got told it was a board, so you imagine there's going to be more than one person sitting in the room, and then we get there and there's one civilian person in the room. You'd served over 30 years in the army, and there wasn't somebody in uniform there to kind of say thank you or for your service, and just to be kind of like sign a form, fill a few boxes in about, your information, and it was just before you knew it, an hour later it was done and dusted. And we were driving back home again thinking, okay, you know, that's that then. And it wasn't part of our plan. We always, we assumed we had, you know, more years left, to carry on that life, a life that we both really enjoy being a part of. Um,
But that gave us, he gave me that start realization is,
yeah,
that day of just hearing that in that short moment of less than an hour of my career had come to an end. That was the end. And I've got 4 months.
yeah,
I've literally got 4 months to resettle, find a job, and there is going to be nothing else. All of the support, and there'll be no support going forward. We were told that, I wouldn't be able to get any more treatment. I would have to, pick that up with, or start it with Op Courage. So it was just like, okay, and there was a couple of days of, really dwelling on that and catastrophizing what that would look like. This is it. How's that going to look? But then it was soon afterwards of, right, okay, we're going to have to do this. And I was very fortunate again, that network of Matt Spruce, Dougie Douglas, really digging in along with you to give me that, okay, right, let's come up with a plan and everything.
mm,
And I was very fortunate, first of all, Matt Spruce, assisting and give me, sort of saying, right, what can we do? We can plan about this. What do you want to do in the future?
yeah,
Get me on some courses, which were great. And then that gave me that initial focus. And along with that, it was just that at that time, it then chimed in with an opportunity to come down and, see my eldest son, see James. And, at that time, then, seeing James on, his career in the army going well, and it was passing into the PT Corps, but then to get to see Harry and Lily at the same time.
yeah. I think that was another changing point for you, wasn't it? Realizing that you know, you wanted to be here. You wanted to be here around with your family, and there was hope for the future. I think that that really helped you to kind of I think what you need to remember is as well is that your strength of character has been absolutely outstanding, and you have, even though it's been really tough, you know, in those that in that beginning part, you could have easily like crumbled and just, I don't know, turn to drink, just abandon the family, you know, kind of just been kind of really self-absorbed and just, you know, gone off and done, I don't know, some crazy things. But you really helped, you really worked hard over this past couple of years. You've really worked hard to kind of, you know, be proactive, go out looking for support, taking those opportunities when they came. You know, even though there were times where you probably felt like it was just the last thing you wanted to do, you went ahead and, you know, you got yourself on the course, you turned up at the course when you weren't feeling very sociable and probably just, you know, just felt really kind of apprehensive and anxious. You know, you just you went for it, you gave it a go, you tried it out, and over time, you know, you've come so far, you know. And I think having the time just to get over all those initial um challenges, and you know, really, you know, it's the strength of character in you that's kept you going,
But
you know.
I don't see that in myself. You know, I really feel like I was still falling apart, and it was only because of you and those other couple of other people, you know, and I keep on mentioning their names, you know, Dougie Douglas, Mass Bruce, they just kept me aligned. You were my handrails as such and everything like that. You
Yeah,
know, there was days I'd start wandering off in my mind or the eyes, and you were pretty much there most times to just pick it up. Or those guys then, you know, just chipping in and everything and going out of their way and everything like that to keep in contact with me. It's just, it blows my mind. It's outstanding. And that is, you know, that true friendship, that brotherhood. But through that process, then it was just like, right, okay, where do we actually want to be? Where do we want to be? What do we need to be doing? No, the start realization to me was I needed an income. Yeah, I need to be getting, I need to be paid. That scared me. I knew I wasn't going to get any other support financially. So it was just like, I need an income. But if we're going to have an income, where do we actually want to be? And I think seeing the kids kickstarted that to thinking, well, we need to be down south. But then, you know, through, you know, it was just like, well, I've had my time. I want you to be happy. And where I saw you happiest is when you were back down here and you were in your previous job. So it was just like, well, let's do that then. Let's move back down south. Yeah. Let's look at that and everything, and let's find a place and equally find work. Now, I was very fortunate at that time that you got back in and I was lucky to find a job and everything. But then the increase of that, and we talk about that catastrophizing, of the pressure of thinking, I am going to have to go into a job, and you know, the mortgage, we're going to have to increase that. It scared me, and the biggest thing about that is it just that going back to that catastrophizing, the headaches and the pressure and the anxiety started to increase. And I was positive there was just something else going on in my head at that time.
yeah,
And, you know, I couldn't get the support from the military to do more investigations because I was pretty much coming to the end of my career. And it was just like, well, you know, fortunately, with your support, I went and got an MRI and
mhm,
we paid for that privately. And guess what? That came back as everything's okay. But to me, having that reassurance that everything was okay,
mhm.
but these signs and symptoms were going on, and that's just
Yeah, because at the time
it,
you were having really bad headaches, weren't
yeah.
you?
But yeah, again, seeing that doctor privately, it was just like, no, you're just suffering really bad anxiety, you've got depression, some PTSD mixed in, but you know, there's nothing else going on. So that gave us that reassurance. Okay, well, let's do that. Let's make that change. And we need to be doing this now.
Yeah,
We need to be doing this, you know, literally before we're leaving the army and getting it set up. And yeah, I think that process again, those last couple of days and that pressure and trying to bring it all together, the move, the job, trying to tie that all in line. And we've talked about it so much, using life as the treatment and everything like that. For me personally, doing life and getting back into it was best treatment for me. I am so far out of the woods and everything like that. But doing that and having that close knit network of just a few people around me that humble humbles me, what you've all done, because of what you've done makes me want to keep on fighting and give something back and everything at the same time. So, you know, to sit here now and say, we why we need to make that change and that acceptance. I still struggle with some of the acceptance. I think it's getting better, but making that change was because we had to bring some of the positivity to our life and everything like that. And for me, bringing that change and positivity for you, for Arthur, but then hopefully being the opportunity to see, you know, the kids, and then hopefully tie in with our close friends and everything as well, was the reasons why we did that.
Yeah. And if you look back now at everything that's happened and you look back at maybe some of the other jobs that you were doing previous, so your last kind of few postings within the army, they were quite stressful positions. If you look back and reflect now, do you think there were like signs that of where maybe you could have made a change earlier? You could have done something differently. You could have maybe, I don't know, reached out to somebody at some point. Is that, in hindsight now, do you think, oh, you know, um, if I'd have done something earlier, maybe, just maybe, things wouldn't have got out of hand?
100%. You look back and hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you can use so many analogies. A straw broke the camel's back, and you talk about that jar and chucking pebbles and stones into the jar, and it not, and how much it empties. There was definitely signs and symptoms. It's about having those coping mechanisms and how you're dealing with it, how you can take a break from it and everything. But, some people are really probably good at dealing with that pressure. I thought I potentially was. I think there was just too many factors at one time, let alone losing the sight, but being in a pressured environment, and it was just too much. Maybe if it was just one or the other, could I have got through?
Mhm.
Who knows? Potentially I could, but because of it all happening at once, it was just too much. But that's behind us now.
Yeah, we have to look forward,
Yeah,
and we've got lots to look forward to. And
yeah,
I think having this and being able to share what's happened to us and just talk through it like honestly and openly about what happened and how we feel, if we can share that with other people and they can see it's okay to talk about these things, like we shouldn't hide how we feel because we think it makes us look weak. We should be able to be honest and open about how we're feeling. If we're feeling anxious, if we're suffering with stress, depression, these things do not make us bad people.
no,
It doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful because you have these ongoing things. It's about talking and having that self-awareness and then coming up with a plan.
yeah,
Okay, on these days where I feel like this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to cope. And it's okay, I'm going to have that day, but tomorrow's going to look completely different.
yeah.
Who knows what tomorrow's going to look like?
We're doing this now because there's a couple of things. One, I think it's really good for me, and this is therapy again for me. But two, it keeps me accountable. But then it's easy for me to turn around and and say, I'm just hoping that this might chime in with somebody else, and it might give them an understanding how they feel. And equally, there's so many times in life you would probably turn up and just scared of putting your hand up or talking to somebody and say, do you know what? I'm just really, really struggling today. But just don't get to that stage, which I really, really did, where I got into such a bad place where the darkness came and the noise came, and I was going to make that fatal decision, and a very selfish one at that time. But luckily, that's behind us now, and we just got to move forward. And really wanted to talk about this today because that, to us, in our mind, my mind, is another chapter ending why we had to make that change.
Yeah.
And I think next time it's going forward and what other things we've got coming into our life and what we got planned and everything. And equally, here we go, we're 1 week out from complete half marathon.
Yeah.
We've really not done enough training for it.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, but here's another positive thing of just getting back into life and facing those challenges and everything like that
Yeah.
again. And it's good therapy in itself.
Exactly. And we're looking forward to, being back in and around that kind of environment, you know, building our training back up. I think that's going to really help with our just, you know, building our strength and resilience. But yeah, just setting those future challenges, future plans, something to look forward to. We love running, and to bring that back into our life in a positive way is good. And we just want to share that with everybody, and see how it goes. I mean, on the day we'll probably try and make a race out of it. You and me, we like to have a little race every now and again, don't
Quite possibly.
we? But we'll see
Yeah.
how it goes.
Yeah. But on that, I think it's a good time to, probably end this now. And if you have got to this stage where you're still here and still listening, from both of us, thank you very much. The big part of today was that acceptance and making that change. I'm making it sound easy. It is completely not. People naturally possibly just look at me and don't see any other changes. The people that are close to me know the real demons that I'm still fighting, and the battles physically and mentally that I'm still going with. So making a change, I like to. It sounds easy, but it's completely not, and everything. But together, we can do it.
Yeah, making a change is hard. The uncertainty, the fear of failure are all things that I think, we would all be concerned about. But ultimately, I think if you don't give it a go, you'll never know. That's kind of my thing. So, um, yeah, if you want to make a change, then absolutely go for it.
Yeah. So all I say is, if you're in that spot and the noise and the darkness comes calling, you, it's going to look clunky. It's going to look incredibly painful. But trust me, stick with it, keep fighting and everything, stay out that noise and darkness, and you know, keep fighting as best you can. So from both of us, thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing and chatting to you again soon.
Take care.
Cheers for now. Bye bye.
Bye.